All right, we're live. Let's get this pulled up here. Welcome everybody to our quick stream here talking about DeMar DeRozan signing with the Chicago Bulls. We had heard a little bit of some reports this morning. In fact, while I was doing my Bulls breakdown of them signing Caruso and Lonzo Ball, I discussed this towards the end about what it would take for DeRozan to land in Chicago. Now, sign and trade is a possibility just for the money to work. Obviously, it does have to contain both Al-Farouq Aminu and Thaddeus Young. They also get a future first, and I think they also mentioned 2 second-round picks as well. So the Chicago Bulls have landed DeMar DeRozan. Let's talk about it. But first, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We're making videos like this all the time about different free agency moves. We still got a couple other players to decide on where they're going to go. Dennis Schroeder is one notable name that's kind of out there still, and some others. So we're excited to kind of cover the NBA as best as we can for you. Subscribe to the channel. We're doing this with free agency. Also, we're monitoring trades. Also, we're going to be looking into the summer league as that starts in about a couple hours from now over in Utah, where the Utah Jazz will play their summer league games between the San Antonio Spurs and the Memphis Grizzlies. So let's talk about let's just break this down. So let's throw up the cap sheet here for the Bulls. So this was not has not officially been updated yet. Let me see if it can now. The Bulls has yet to update to DeRozan's contract. However, DeRozan signing an $84 million deal, just like what Shams is reporting, $85 million for 3 years. Now that's a little less than $30 million a year. So, what an interesting selection here for DeRozan. The Bulls, just in a matter of about 24 hours, because again, free agency opened at about 23 hours ago. What an interesting thing for the Bulls to be able to pull off, where they get Caruso, they get Lonzo, they get DeMar DeRozan. Absolutely fantastic. They trade away, again, Thaddeus Young, Al-Farouq Aminu to San Antonio. But again, do you do that move? Absolutely. You do trade a future first. Obviously, they did need to trade away a 2023 pick to Orlando. However, it's also, they have other picks in the future that they can get rid of. So just an outstanding move for this team, for this organization. They brought in new management last year. They brought in their new head coach in Billy Donovan last year, and they just shifted off of the horrible Jim Boylan era that was in Chicago. And now they're at a point where they have an all-star. They have 3 all-stars on this team. They have obviously Vucevic, they have Levine, they have now DeMar DeRozan. So they're not void of talent here in Chicago. They have some young pieces with Caruso, Patrick Williams. Is there potential where Markkanen stays? I don't know if that happens, but Kobe White is still on the team. Troy Brown Jr. is still on the team. So they have young pieces around them. Chicago is building right. If I talked on my Magic stream about me being all in on the Magic, I will put my short-term stock into this Bulls team. Absolutely. Just incredible to me that how the Bulls were able to get this done. King Queese, a regular on our channel here, he asks, does this make the Bulls a top 4 team in the East? So I was actually breaking it down and trying to think of like, okay, so I've always talked about Milwaukee and Brooklyn are probably the top 2 teams next year. Maybe one of them drops to 3 because they don't take the regular season seriously. Does that give opportunity for the Bulls to move up to 4? Can we name another team in the top 4 from last year? Philly has yet to do much. Let's see, who was the 4 seed last year? Why am I blanking out on this? Atlanta, is Chicago better than Atlanta? I would think so. Are they better than Knicks? Absolutely. The real question though is like how much does Boston and Miami bounce back? Because there could be a combination of like Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Boston, Miami, Philly, and Chicago are also in that like log jam for the 4 seed. Man, I mean, in their division, I think the Bulls, let's see, because in their division, they still have to worry about Milwaukee, who's in the division. I think the Pacers are good, but I don't think they're going to be like a top 4 team. I think the Bulls are better than the Pacers, but yeah, I would say that they are contending for a top 4 spot. I just kind of want to create the expectation of Miami and Boston, who were teams that were not top 4 teams, but that had made the playoffs. They're getting better, so thus do they move up to the standings to the 4-5 spot? Yeah. Do I think the Bulls make the playoffs? I think it's hands down they make the playoffs. And I think they really can get to a top 4 seed. So kind of a long-winded answer there. But I ultimately think the Bulls can get to the top 4 in the East. There was this tweet, I think, by Mark Stein where he talked about how the top 8 in the East next year is probably going to be better, like team by team, talent wise, like all top 8 team wise is going to be better than the West top 8 teams because of the Clippers injury with Kawhi and the Nuggets injury with Jamal Murray. I actually think that the West is going to look very similar next year. I think Utah and Phoenix can still be at the top of the standings along with the Lakers. And again, I mostly project like the Lakers resting LeBron and AD at certain times and maybe lowering their minutes. And the Lakers told us this year, like, we don't care about what seed we're going to end up. We're going to go in and, see what we can do in the playoffs. And seeding doesn't matter. We believe we can win on the road. Seeding might matter more for Phoenix and Utah next year like it did this year. So, but ultimately, yeah, the Bulls and the whole Eastern Conference in and of itself is moving up. Lowry to Miami, DeRozan now to Chicago. Pretty cool stuff in the NBA is going on. And it should be an entertaining season, especially if you're kind of an East Coast guy, if you're an Eastern Conference fan. It's good. I think it's genuinely good for the league to have some of these bigger brands like Miami and Chicago and Boston to be better in the league. Obviously we appreciate Milwaukee being a small market team, but you got to understand, like, the NBA thrives. They get more viewers, they get more money when these bigger teams are, part of the NBA. So if the Knicks want to have a presence in the NBA, the NBA would love that. But Chicago, another big city, a lot of fans are going to jump in that have kind of been out on the Bulls the last few years. Chicago is going to be a basketball, place that you should definitely look and watch Bulls games next year. They were a team, actually. The Bulls were a team that I was looking at a lot last year, just because of the youth that they had on this year. Markkanen, Carter, Kobe White, Patrick Williams, obviously Levine. But now they're like totally like, okay, this is a team that I really actually am interested to watch next year. They have perimeter defenders now with Caruso, with Ball, with DeRozan, and it makes what we need to understand with that is that it makes everybody's job easier. When you have guys who are locked in on defense and playing on the perimeter, it makes everybody's job easier. It makes Vucevic's job, his job, a lot easier because he doesn't have to protect the rim as much. But yeah, ultimately, I love the move for Chicago. It just is a good fit. I usually, if you noticed, if you know anything about me, I'm not crazy about like these mid-range jumpers that players take, and DeRozan loves to play in the mid-range and doesn't really shoot the three. I'm fine with that if other people on the floor can hit those shots. So again, he's going to have Levine on the floor. He's going to have Vucevic, who's a capable three-point shooter, on the floor. Lonzo is an improved three-point shooter. Obviously, Caruso. Can Patrick Williams continue to strengthen his game? Kobe White is kind of come and go as a shooter, and percentage-wise, he's up and down all the time anyway. But I think there is a way where DeRozan really, really is just a good fit. I think they can throw him the ball if Levine's ever doubled, because he can be a playmaker on the perimeter. He can play in transition. He can obviously still defend at a good level. And the Bulls, you look at their contracts, they aren't paying anybody over $30 million, which is crazy. So they've been able to like take big chunks, like, because you look at most salaries across the league, and the Nets have to pay guys in the high 30s. Westbrook's contract is $40 million, I believe. So but the Bulls don't have that, and so they can add 20 on 20 on 20, and it's the equivalent of having like Anthony Davis and LeBron, who are making a little over 60 million combined. But if you have 2020 where it's Levine, Lonzo, and Vucevic, and they all combined for 60 million, well, that's the equivalent of having Anthony Davis just salary wise. Again, talking money here instead of just, basketball point. But, so that makes sense. So they've built this team now to where they can have 4 guys that are making less than 30, but more than about 19.5 to 20 million on average for their contracts. And that's just super, super solid stuff that they have. And then they still keep some young talent like Patrick Williams. They didn't have to give up Patrick Williams in any kind of trade. They didn't have to give up on Kobe White. He plays with the second unit still. Lauri Markkanen, what can he do off the bench? So it's just good stuff there in Chicago. I'm really intrigued by what they've done. I do, going back to King Queese's question, I really do feel like they are a team that can really, really do some solid stuff. Looks like we got more breaking news here. Kendrick Nunn is going to the Lakers. 2-year, $10 million deal. So the Lakers get some youth on their team along with keeping Talen Horton-Tucker. I think the Lakers are pretty much done then now. But we'll get to that in a separate video and talk about what the Lakers have done and how they're filling out their roster. Pretty good stuff here in the NBA today. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream and do some more kind of looking into kind of the kind of where guys are going. Again, Dennis Schroeder we still don't know about Dennis Schroeder. But yeah, again, the Bulls get a ultra thumbs up, an ultra A+. I think they're big winners of the offseason so far. I'm not going to give them like an official grade. I'll go through team by team of how I think they did in the offseason. And then as we get closer to the NBA season, I will do a projection of like who I think how the seeds are going to work for each conference. But yeah, that's it. Great work by the Bulls, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day. At least have a good of a day as the Bulls have had today.